We are certainly living and leading in interesting times. Right now, and the next few years, are all about developing resilience on the roller coaster ride of an environmental revolution. All over the world, we are facing demographic change, climate change, technological change, changes in economic and political power globally. Change has become the one thing we can rely on to stay the same. When we began our COVID-19 pandemic journey, we thought this was going to be a short-term sprint to stay alive and survive, and then we could all go back to normal, whatever our normal was. We experienced the lockdown revolution without realizing it at the time. We pivoted to remote working. We managed some change, small amounts of change, to survive. There were evolving government subsidies and support solutions we spent a lot of time learning about, tracking data for, applying for, and receiving if we were eligible to do so. A year later, it has become clear that we must go beyond merely surviving. And if we want to enjoy the fruits of success, we must adapt and strive to ultimately find ways to thrive. This is not the last pandemic or significant environmental change we will face. Now and well into the next decade, we must learn to manage change differently than we did before. We must finance our businesses so that they can absorb shocks and stay the course. We must communicate with each other. We need to digitize, and we need to look into the future and anticipate outcomes. To truly thrive, we will need to look at our world differently and imagine a new path constantly. Although the role of the CFO had been evolving since the 1990s with various forms of automation, forecasting, standardization, and other aspects of analytics, and financial systems and ERP solutions became much more popular, when we all received the order to lock down for a few weeks, we unknowingly experienced an immediate environmental revolution, which required us to evolve faster and differently. To keep our businesses alive, we pivoted to 100% remote working. And we did that immediately. It was only going to be a few weeks. We needed to digitize quickly and keep our employees working. We found fast fixes. We idled offices and equipment as employees moved to remote working. We moved online. That was easy for those of us who had the infrastructure in place already. There was minimal additional spend. Although we did have challenges and see some additional costs as we had insurance impacts for idled offices. We had maintenance cost impacts. We certainly saw additional usage of tools and some training costs for those tools. We moved in some cases or had to move to paperless solutions. And we started to manage by deliverables or outputs required rather than time spent face-to-face or in the office or in meetings or doing collaborative teamwork. Many companies did not have the infrastructure in place, and their CFOs were suddenly faced with difficult decisions about idling business processes completely and the associated financial impact compared with spending on building technology infrastructure. We were all faced with urgent decision requirements about the immediate now. We were faced with great risk of loss. We had to spend more, and suddenly we had to consider the impact of workforce wellness. It had an immediate and significant impact on our cash flow and financial statements. Noting these impacts, as leaders, we have had to strengthen our role as catalysts. We need to ask the difficult questions, the what if questions, and we need to ask what if in many different ways. We have all learned the what if could be so much more than our current day experience. And then there are the imagine if questions. Imagine if we could do things completely differently. Imagine if we could connect with people from many different places differently. Insert your different imagined solutions here. We also need to model and forecast the financial impacts. As the weeks passed and we realized this was not going away anytime soon, we also needed to change to a future focus and become much more predictive in our outlook. And as there were many potential outcomes, the L, the W, the U, and the K economic recovery curves, and we were in a constantly evolving situation, that future forecast focus had to be continuous. Sometimes it was daily, sometimes it was weekly, but certainly more than monthly. My greatest realization through all of that period of weekly forecast updates and working with other members of our senior leadership team to ensure we could weather this storm was that profitable growth from now on could not only be about dollars and numbers. It had to include more. It is now about wellness, and wellness in many aspects, as well as dollars and numbers. And that changes everything. As we seek to survive, we must strive for best outcomes for our customers, employees, fellow leaders, and owners. As CFOs and members of senior leadership teams, we must strengthen our roles as catalysts for change. We must constantly evaluate our new environment for trends or alerts in our customer base, our employees, our fellow leaders, financial markets, climate, and even wildlife. We must be vigilant about governance and good treatment or wellness of everything in our environment. There is a significant financial cost and negative impact to profitable growth if we do not ask the difficult questions and consider options and outcomes on our financial statements and cash flows. And we must do this often, even daily and weekly. To do this well, we must invest in information systems, and we must invest in our financial planning and analysis or analytical teams. We must also collaborate and communicate widely with all of our people. Our role as negotiator or defender must also be enhanced. Our organizations need to be financed to absorb shocks, as well as to build and grow. We must keep watch and evaluate eligibility for government subsidies and other sources of financing. We should also be vigilant about potential future taxation impacts to our businesses. We should be watching our ratios and building strong balance sheets. To do this, we must be connected with people and systems. We must choose to invest in information networks. As navigators, we will need to forecast more frequently and model several scenarios, not just the usual worst, realistic, best case. We must even model the what ifs, even down to greater levels of granularity. There might be a what if in a small part of your business that could have significant financial impact. We must also imagine if. Imagine if we could book a trip to a country far away from our home, sign on, register, get to the airport and move through the process really quickly with our luggage continuously by our side, never leaving us, picking up the food we require for the flight along the way, not touching others at all, having enough space, arriving at the other end, picking up our already pre-ordered rental vehicle, arriving at our destination, going directly to our room or apartment, and having everything be ready according to our preferences and requirements. All digitally, but also all easily and with the greatest care for our wellness. Imagine if. We need to change the metrics and measure performance in holistic ways. It's not just about a basic number of contracts you sell or number of calls you make or number of clicks on your website. It's not just about a total revenue line or a total cost. We must include other metrics. This might include wellness metrics and their impacts on our business. The wellness of people, employees, customers, the wellness of industries, our own and ones that support us or provide inputs to us or to whom we provide outputs, the wellness of regions, as this may impact both our top line and our costs, the wellness of our climate, which can also directly and indirectly impact costs and revenues. We must focus our metrics as well. Keep them simple, keep them minimal, and directly connected to strategy so that we can do the right things for the right people at the right time. To do this, we must demand superior and enhanced forecasting tools, and we must learn and know how to use them effectively. Our role is no longer in the background or behind the scenes. Together with the CEO and other members of our senior leadership teams, we must apply a coordinated effort, reaching out and responding to our customers, our employees, often and via all media. We must also act on their requests and insights. Be responsive. To do this, we must collaborate and use collaboration tools and media of all kinds. Overall, it is important that we embrace technology solutions to help us and our people optimize wellness in all aspects, as well as dollars and other numbers. We need to digitize solutions. We need to automate the less interesting work so that we can do the more interesting and insightful work. And we definitely need to go paperless. Believe me, it is very freeing. Now, as we continue to live and work through the impact of this pandemic, is the best time to consider updating systems. It's going to get even busier when we emerge from the rolling lockdown phase, and we may not have the time to spend thinking about evaluating and even testing updated systems. We need to digitize and automate. We need to develop and use analytics, forecasting, and AI tools so we can ask those difficult what if and imagine if questions. And even so that we can look at behaviors and activities and what they're doing to our numbers. The fun is in the asking and imagining. The skill is in the learning and knowing what questions to ask. We also need to build out the WorkNet and make sure we can compete in a world where work can be done in many different ways, from many different locations, and in many different time zones, simultaneously or at different times. It is also the time to consider growth and building proof of concept. Right now, there are many opportunities in adversity and changing necessities. Finding new opportunities is important. Look at things differently. Ask questions differently. Wellness is important. Merge and acquire organizations that align with your strategies and goals. Sell if this is a time of transformation and move on to next steps. Diversify or focus and consolidate. And finally, we must continue evolving. Through this pandemic, we have learned that change is the only constant. Just when we think it's okay to go out again, it's not. Or it is, but with many complexities and rules to follow. So be vigilant. Find ways to consider all information and how it might impact your financials. Undertake ongoing risk assessment and evaluation. Consider and model many scenarios, not just the standard ones we've all been using for a very long time. Find new opportunities, new ideas, new ways of delivering the same solutions. Maybe different solutions. We have new demographics, we have new systems, we have evolving environments and experiences. Refocus and reset the metrics. Keep them easy and simple to understand, to follow, and to identify where change is needed or alert about impending change. Support each other. This is more and more important every day. We need to support each other with systems, with processes, with learning, continuously evolving, and also caring, communicating. Modernize systems. We are moving into a new world. Our future is fast-paced. It's continuously evolving. Change is the only constant. Our success as a result of COVID-19 is to build better business. Thank you.